Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ale, short for Alejandra. Thank you for being here and sharing your time with me. I really appreciate it. Today I wanted to film and then I guess do the voiceover for a week at my desk. I did a video like this probably at this point a couple months ago, and it was very fun because I think sometimes it's a bit hard to film like a long extended period of time once a week, because sometimes I don't have that kind of time at my desk, but I do have smaller pockets of time throughout the week. So it's nice to film those snippets and kind of put them together in one whole video. And I think that's also a more realistic video of what I get up to in my journals. Anyway, I thought we'd start in my weekly journal, the one that I do it's like my weekly horizontals plus memo. And then I've been a bit behind on my photo highlights just because the main deterrent is that I try to take most of like my important photos on my film camera, but with that comes a delay because I have to finish the entire roll before I can get it developed and get them printed. So if you can see behind the photos there that I printed, there's like little pencil marks of the photos that I remember taking and that I think I'll probably print and put in those spots. But I also have a lot of cute photos on my phone that I thought I would just go ahead and print. And actually, that's a recent photo that I just pointed at, which are the nail color that I have on right now. But anyway, I thought I would just print some of my phone photos and put them in my highlights before time slips away from me altogether, and then I forget to do my monthly highlights, which would be devastating because it's one of my very favorite things about my journal. So for now, I'm going to accept that my film photos will be used perhaps for something else, or for some of the gaps that I left behind even after I did all this that I'm going to put in there. Anyway, I hope that all makes sense. There's something so deeply satisfying about these highlights in photos. Obviously, it's very nice to be able to read my actual words where I talk about all the things that I did, but visually it's just very satisfying to look at and kind of remember just at a quick glance all the wonderful and beautiful things that I've done so far in my year. I think it's easy to sometimes forget all these big highs, or maybe not even necessarily, they don't even have to necessarily be big things, but just things that I deemed important at the time and took a photo of it and then printed it and put it on the paper because it had some sort of value to my life. So I really love doing these, and for October I really wanted to do a photo of my Halloween costume that I did with Michael. I was very pleased about that. I also wanted to include a photo of my mom, my beautiful mom, on her birthday. For those of you that don't know, maybe most of you don't know this, I live in BC in Canada, and she originally lived in Ontario, which is still very far, but for the past 2 years she's been living back in Mexico, where we're from, and I hadn't seen her in 14 months. And then I went to Ontario for a work trip like 10 days ago, and she surprised me and she was there, and it was so wonderful because the day after I flew in was her birthday, so we got to celebrate her birthday together, which was so special with my brother and my brother's partner. So I knew I had to get a cutie little photo of her with her cake and put that in my highlights, because that memory will keep me going for the rest of the year and on to 2026 as well. On the other side, I have more highlights. I think originally when I set this up, one page was more for like personal highlights, and then the other was for highlights that involved my loved ones. But I think I've just kind of accepted that they're a bit of both, because sometimes there's just a lot of highlights that I've had with people I love, so I allow myself to use both pages if I want to. But I would even put things like, in my personal highlights, it would be things like if I got a haircut, or if I got like a personal achievement that I'm going through, things like that. So it's not super strict, but I do like some sort of order. At least that's how I planned it originally, but I'm very flexible with it. All that really matters is that I have my highlights. And what I was pointing to there is what I was explaining before, that sometimes when I take the photo, I'll go in with pencil to just remind myself what I'm planning to put there, because sometimes I don't actually print the photos until the month after or at the very end of the month. But yeah, I felt very satisfied just kind of getting those together and not feeling like I was going to have to do, scroll through my phone and try to recall what I deemed worthy of a highlight. So that's all I tackled that day, just printing some photos, cutting them, and deciding what was going to go in the highlights. Okay, so the next thing I did, I went to a shop in my city called Bead World, where I get a lot of my beads, and it's how I create a lot of my charms. And the main reason I wanted to go was because I took my passport TN with me to Ontario, and I lost the side charms, which is so sad. I don't even know how I managed to do that. But I just took it as an opportunity to do a little bit of a refresh and give it, a new look. So I created the one that I just held up, which I really like because I feel like the brown really matches the TN, and then the yellow beads kind of match the charms that I have on there. And then I did another little charm that I'm making right here on camera because I really liked the color combination of them, like the little pearl and then this pearl star. I was trying this clear charm, but it didn't work out because it was a sideways charm and I wanted it to be straight up. It was going to be too bulky, so we scrapped that idea. And this was kind of actually, I thought I was going to take that charm from below the star, but I ended up pulling it because I realized I didn't really need it. But as I'm narrating this, I'm kind of realizing I did like how it looked. That's okay. Anyway, this is the final look and how it turned out hanging on my passport TN, and it's so cute. And I just use 3 very simple pliers. It's like that the plier that actually cuts the wire, and then the one that helps you twist it into a loop, and then the one that just helps you like curl it around, if that makes sense. But you can get all those 3 at Michael's. And then I use these little I don't know what they're called, but they're like flat-nosed wires, if you will. I'm trying to show that here, but it's just that, so when you slide the bead into that little wire, it gets stuck at the bottom, and then you just have to make the loop on the top. It's honestly a very, very easy little DIY. And as you can see, these were the final results with the charms I got. I got that little red heart because I just envisioned it in my red TN and I just couldn't pass it up. It's so cute. I'm not entirely sure where I'll put the other one, but like I said, it's kind of nice that you can refresh your TNs in that way. So I'll just store it and use it when I want to. And for the little heart charm, for now, I decided to set it up in a way. I did this before in a previous video. I think it's called like personalizing my TN, but I just take a little paper clip and then I just pry the side open slightly so that I can loop the bead and the loop through the paper clip. As you can see here, I just thread it in and then you just kind of close it back in place since you pull it open to get it in. And then it's just a regular paper clip, but then a little charm pops up at the end. And after I place this on my palm, I will grab the one I did previously in a video that I use a ton, and it was just a little pearl one. And it's just, again, a very simple thing that just adds a little bit more personalizing to your notebooks, and I'll take any opportunity to do that. Another day, another journal spread. This time I wasn't, I guess first step, what's most important is lighting my candle, because the desk is not the same if there's not a little burning flame next to me. But today, the main thing I wanted to tackle, because I'll be honest with you, I am a bit behind on my... Again, we really have to figure out a name for this journal, but it's the journal where I can do more long form memory keeping. I don't have a name for this. My overflow, my dailies, but I don't do them dailies, so I can't really call them dailies. Anyway, I've been a bit behind. So some of the pages have like the skeleton down, if you will. So I know what I need to do on those pages, but I just haven't had the time to either fully complete the spread or to go into the templates that I've set up and do the actual writing. So I knew that I wanted to spend some time today doing that. So as you can see, this one's empty, but I did promise in a previous video that I do that on camera. Then there's also that one, and then I have like receipts tucked in there because I know that so that I remember what I was planning to put in there. Look at this. A lot of photos are pasted in, but not a whole lot of writing. So that needs to be done ASAP. So this spread actually goes back to October 13th. And as I am filming or recording this, I almost called it a voice note, a voice over. It is November 6th. So I'm really quite behind. But yeah, it was October 13th. Michael and I did a little 24-hour getaway to Vancouver, and then the page on the right with the photos of the veggies was from our Thanksgiving dinner, and it kind of all happened on that same long weekend, so it's technically a 2-page spread. But the first thing I really wanted to do was to put some sort of title, and I just chose to do my capital letter stamps. I do find sometimes that, especially when I am backlogging or just have a lot of things to catch up on, photos are your best friend. Ephemera like receipts and things like that are also your best friend because they remove the pressure of like starting to write on like a blank page and feeling like there's still so much space that you need to fill in order to complete the spread. And then I guess the same thing with a prominent title, right? It kind of takes the focus a little bit and takes up space. And yeah, at least for me, it's really helpful to kind of have those things to tackle that first. And then that way I know how much space I have to write, but also I no longer feel daunted by those gleaming white pages looking at me. I forgot to film you'll see me finish the entire title that says Thanksgiving, and then underneath it I wrote dinner in just my regular writing. But what I forgot to film, which is not really major, but I forgot to start recording the first, I guess, few sentences or first, I think it was more than a few sentences of my Thanksgiving spread, but you'll get the idea because I still filmed the final bit of that. But the other thing I did was I grabbed my date stamp for the left side spread, just so that, because if you can see the receipt, it's blocking the date. So I wanted to make sure that I stamped the actual date, which was October 13th. So whenever I'm flipping back through these pages, I know when that trip with my partner happened. And those things are really important, not just to me, but to Michael as well, because he often will ask me like, oh, what were we doing on this day last year? And then I have exact dates to share with him and for us to reflect on all the things that we did. And that trip specifically was a little getaway that we did to celebrate our 4 years. So that felt like, out of all the ones that I should diligently stamp, it should probably be that one. For the Thanksgiving spread, I mainly just talked about the fact that I didn't originally think we were going to do anything for Thanksgiving. just because, again, my family is very far away, and then Michael's family is also really far away, but his mom does live here, so I knew that it would be important for us to make that effort and have a little dinner for the three of us, but also keeping it somewhat simple for the three of us, since Michael and his mom worked, and then it would have just been me cooking, which normally I can do, but we had been away for the weekend, so I definitely wanted something a little bit simple. So we ended up making a little veggie roast. It's like a fake turkey thing that Michael found, and we roasted Brussels sprouts and carrots and potatoes, and I made butternut squash soup. And then Michael's mom brought dessert. It was chocolate cake, and we topped it with fresh strawberries, and it was really delicious. At the very end, though, I did talk about the fact that I really missed my mom. She loves holidays like these, and I really wish that I had the great privilege that Michael has to just be able to, drive over 5 minutes, 10 minutes and see your mom. It's something that I miss very, very much. So I did write that down at the bottom of the page. But that was pretty much all I had to say about Thanksgiving. It was a nice time, a simple time, and that's what I wanted it to be. And then, like I already talked about on the left, we're just talking about the little Vancouver trip. Although, as I'm watching this, I definitely wrote Toronto. I clearly have Toronto on the mind since I was just there. I need to go in and edit that when I remember to do so. Anyway, not to make this a bit cheesy talking about, all the people in my life that I love, but I think that's one of my favorite things about keeping a journal is that I have this place and this outlet where I can be cheesy and overly sweet, and very, very deeply grateful to have the people in my life that I do, especially Michael, since, again, I don't have family in the city that I'm from. He is so integral, because he's my family. And celebrating 4 years was obviously super, super exciting and super special, but at the same time, I'm like, really? Just 4 years? It just feels like so much longer because we have a whole life together. But regardless, I am so grateful, and I'm just glad that I took the time to make that little entry, because that'll be such a sweet little thing to reflect on later on. Anyway, once I got my final thoughts down, the 2-page spread was done, and I felt very pleased with it. The next thing, though, that I really wanted to tackle, because I think now in hindsight it's so satisfying, is this spread from my time in Ontario. And the main reason for that being is that during Thanksgiving, as I said, I was talking about the fact that I missed my mom and how I so badly wished that I had the same ability to see my mom as easily. And I had no idea at the time that I was going to go to Ontario and she was going to surprise me. And Michael knew the whole time. My mom had told him and looped him in. And I honestly can't believe that he managed to keep that secret so well. And what's hilarious is that my family and we all have our locations shared with one another. And my mom I think she then explained to me that my brother's partner did mention to her, like, oh, she might see your location. But if you remove your location from someone, they'll get notified. So my mom was like, it's kind of a lose-lose either way. So I texted her the day before her birthday to say, like, happy birthday Eve. But with the new iPhone update, like, if you have someone's location and you're in your iMessage chat with them, it says their location, like, right there on that very same screen, which is when I saw, and this is as we're going to the airport, okay? Michael is about to drop me off at the airport for me to go on to Ontario, and I see the city where we're from underneath, like, from in Ontario, underneath her name, and I look at Michael, and I, like, actually cannot believe what's happening. Like, I didn't even, there was no chance that my mom was in Ontario. So I even like refreshed my app because I thought there was like a big glitch. And then I looked at Michael and I was like, is she in Ontario? And Michael just like, closes his eyes and just goes, oh, we were so close. And I couldn't believe it. Like, I know my mom was like, oh, I didn't manage to do like the surprise fully, but it was the greatest surprise. Like, I was so excited in the car. Like, I couldn't stop like squealing and screaming, and I kept saying like, I'm gonna see my mom. I was so excited, and even like retelling this story just fills me with so much joy because it was the greatest surprise ever. I had not seen her in 14 months. That is an insane amount of time for me not to see my mom. So it was just so great, and we had so much fun, even though it was a work trip and I was still working full time while I was there. We had one weekend together that we did absolutely everything together on that day, and in the evenings we'd spend as much time as we could together. We went to Sephora many times to look at skincare and makeup, and to different drugstores to see like drugstore makeup and dupes, and we drank a lot of London Fogs, which is what I was writing about in this entry, and we sang a lot of songs. It was just so lovely. I always say that she's my best friend, and I know that that's like, like a sweet thing to say, but I mean it. I do think that we are kindred spirits, and we're very, very similar in a lot of ways, and it's so easy to spend all day with her. We just have yeah, I think we like a lot of the same things, so it makes it very, very fun. And on her birthday, which I wanted to share before because I think it's really relevant for my stationery channel, is that we went to Wonder Pens in Toronto, and because she has this little tiny fountain pen, which is from my recollection, it's called the Pilot Petite fountain pen that is now discontinued, but we didn't realize it was discontinued, and she had been trying to find refills but wasn't able to, and then the sweet man at Wonder Pens told us that it was discontinued, and that was all the information I needed to know. I knew I needed to buy her a new fountain pen for her birthday, and she chose the Burgundy or Bordeaux, it might be called, the Kaweco, that I also have, and she bought it as well, but she got it in a fine instead of an extra fine, and then we purchased all the the ink cartridge colors that they had so that she could go back to Mexico with plenty of options, and it was so fun to do that. There were just so many gorgeous things in that store, and we both kept looking at each other like, oh my gosh, like look at all these things, and she was saying that we could have been there for so many more hours, but I think we were limited on time because they were closing, but they were still so kind and generous and allowed us to stay even past closing so that my mom could pick out her pen. It was such a lovely, lovely experience, and I hope that she had a wonderful time because I had a wonderful time. It almost felt like it was my birthday instead of hers. A day later, or maybe a couple of days later, on one of our many outings, we were at a mall, and I saw that they had a photo booth. And I could never say no to a photo booth. I love photo booths. And then I just thought that it would be the sweetest thing to go in the photo booth with my mom. And usually, which I was correct, usually there are two photo strips get printed. So I could keep one and she could keep the other. So we went in there and took those 4 little photos that are on that left page. And I just, I love it. I love it. And she got to keep hers, and she was very excited about it. And now it's a little photo strip that I'll get to treasure forever. And, it just meant the world to me to have seen my mom and have been able to spend time with her during what would have otherwise been a very stressful and busy work trip. So I had a lot of fun kind of putting all those thoughts onto this page to immortalize it. And then on the other side, the other thing I knew I wanted to talk about was the time I got to spend with my best friend Hannah. She also lives in Ontario, and I was able to stay at her place, and she lives in Toronto, for 2 nights, and it made a lot of my work meetings much easier to attend. So I was very, very grateful for that, but also selfishly because that meant that my evenings I was able to spend them with her and her partner, and we went to a few different events with her friends, and I was so glad to get to meet them, even though I weirdly felt like I already knew them, because every time that her and I have, big catch-ups or just general catch-ups, she talks about them. So when I was meeting them, I almost had to keep reminding myself that this was in fact the first time I was meeting them. But also I was like, I know so much about you. Which I mean is a nice feeling, and then same with them. Sometimes they would say things about me and I was like, oh, how do you know that? But it's because Han also tells them things about me. So it was like this really nice thing to kind of put all of us together and finally properly meet, not just know each other from like through Hannah, if that makes sense. So yeah, I just wanted to write about that. We booted her boyfriend, her sweet boyfriend, to the couch so that her and I could have proper sleepovers the 2 nights that I was there, and it was so sweet. I think I've mentioned this in a previous video when she came to visit me in Victoria, and one of my favorite things about spending time with her like overnight is, I don't know why, and it's because it's such a simple thing, and I wrote about it in my journal entry here, but it's like the act of being able to get ready together. Like we're like, okay, we're gonna go out for dinner or get some drinks or whatever, and then we're both in the bathroom like putting our lip gloss on and sharing what perfume we're wearing or the blush we're gonna put on, and it's just such like a beautiful simple thing, but it just brings me more joy than I can explain. And then similarly, like at the end of the night when we're doing our skincare and getting ready for bed and we both like put our retainers in, there's just something, I don't know, maybe it just really reminds me of when we were in high school and we were able to do that way more often. It's funny because we've both been with our boyfriends for the same amount of time, 4 years, and sometimes we start talking about like the fact that like the potential of getting engaged, and I find it so hard to wrap my head around sometimes because we're 26, but there's so many moments where I'm like, no, we're 15, we're in high school, like what are we talking about? I've known her since I was 7, so I think I get that feeling even more with her because I'm like, no. We're still going through our high school boyfriends. What do you mean engaged? There's no way. But it's obviously like a really lovely thing, like a lovely privilege, gift, whatever, to have a friend that's been with you for so long, that knows so many different versions of you, has been through so much with you. So it's nice to now be in this place where, sure, we're in very different places in Canada, but we come together and we have the loveliest, greatest time, and we're both with really solid, wonderful humans. So when I leave her, I know that she is so loved and so taken care of. But it was so very lovely to spend as much time as I got to with her. And that was truly, her and my mom were the true highlights of my trip to Toronto. I don't know what I would have done had I not been able to do that with them. Anyway, I wrote down my concluding thoughts, although I almost burnt everything on my desk. No, I'm kidding. I'm being dramatic. Anyway, final thoughts on the page. And at the bottom below, like where my hand is covering, I printed 2 photos. One is of the backs of Hannah and Wyeth walking with their umbrellas in the rain in Toronto. And then the other photo is from a dinner that the 3 of us had at an all-vegan sushi place, which was really yummy and very, very exciting for me. So that's all been put into the spread, and I will be able to reflect on it whenever I want to. And I know that the thoughts are there and they're safe, and I'll never forget about them. Once I conquered all this, I knew that I was going to be done. There was going to be nothing else that I wanted to tackle on this day. So I would be returning to the next spread another time, because that took quite a while. Even though it doesn't seem like that long, it still requires me to think like exactly what I want to say so that I can ensure that it fits in the amount of space that I have. And then, I don't want to make any mistakes. I want it to look pretty, etc. So it always takes longer than I originally anticipated taking. But anyway, that's that spread. And the next one that I'm really excited to do is this one here that I'm giving you a little sneak preview of, which was from Halloween and my costume. I think I mentioned this in the last video, but Michael and I dressed up as the two main characters from the horror movie Hereditary. So I'm very excited to journal about that because I was very proud of that Halloween costume. But I will see you on the next clip. Okay, so this next day, I started this journal entry on the bus ride home, but I wasn't able to, on the bus ride to meet a friend, I think. Yeah. So I wasn't able to fully finish my journal entry, but I think that's one of the reasons why I love my passport traveler's notebook, because it allows me to journal on the go. And I mean, ironically, the little insert that I'm writing in, I did title it Tiny Notes on the Go, but it really truly does serve that purpose. There are so many moments in my life, in my day-to-day life, that I witness something that just really moves me, or that makes me I witness humans doing things that I'm like, oh, I want to write that down. And I had a really strong feeling like that on the bus a couple of days ago, where this sweet little girl was sitting on her dad's lap, and she looked so serene and so calm, and she was just like looking into the distance during the bus ride, and there was so much going on the bus, as there often is, but she was so unfazed by it because she was safe in her father's arms, and he was carrying her little bright pink backpack, and the whole world was moving all around her, and all of the things that happen every single day, but she was in this beautiful, peaceful bubble. And I simultaneously thought it was beautiful, but I also kind of envied her, because I too wish sometimes that I was at that age where my parents could protect me and simply carry me onto the bus and off the bus, and everything was kind of decided for me, but in a really beautiful way. So I knew that when I got home, I wanted to take the time to finish that train of thought, because I was nearly done. I just had some final sentences that I wanted to write about before I forget. As some of you may know, I have been reading Deborah Levy's, what's it called? Her biography trilogy. I think it has a particular name, but I can't recall it at this time. But she has a quote in her second book, The Cost of Living, that really resonated with me, and I haven't really been able to stop thinking about it since, because it's like when someone says, when someone puts words to a thought, and that you've never been able to articulate yourself, even if it's really quite simple. And the quote says, all writing is about looking and listening and paying attention to the world. And that's just so beautiful. I'm going to repeat it again in case it didn't hit the first time. All writing is about looking and listening and paying attention to the world. And I really couldn't agree more. I think that's such a simple way of putting it. And I really try to remind myself to be present, because not just for my writing and for the opportunity to write about the things that I'm paying attention to, but it's just a part of feeling that oneness with the people around us, about humanity, and understanding that we're all on this earth together. And this just got very serious, but I don't mean it to be. I just mean it to be a beautiful thing and an important reminder for all of us, especially when our lives get so busy and so hectic and we don't have time to connect with people. I think that quote is so, so special. So this journal entry honestly meant a lot to me because I just thought this little girl and her dad were so beautiful. And I'd be happy to share what I wrote with you. So I'll read that with you now. Let me find the passage. Okay, let's see. Now that we're back on the page, I wrote, "Will she remember these bus rides with her father, the number 14 ringing a bell but unable to pinpoint where from? How she'd rest her head on his chest, eyes heavy, looking far into the distance. There were two ladies arguing. One caught the other drinking from a brown paper bag. The little girl is none the wiser. She's safe, or at least feels safe, and can afford to not pay attention. I hope she gets to live many more years with that safety and protection." The dad flings a neon pink bag over his shoulder when they arrive at their stop. A name is written at the top in black Sharpie. I hope she will remember. I hope they are happy and in peace. And then at the bottom I just wrote, "Some thoughts after seeing a father and his daughter on the bus." And that was the entry that I really wanted to finish at my desk. And that was all I did that day. That was the only journaling, but important. And here we are again, another day, another journal spread. For this last thing that I filmed for this video, I kept it very simple. I didn't want to do anything too elaborate. I just wanted to catch up on my week. As I was writing this entry, it was Thursday, I believe. And I hadn't done my little daily recaps in this notebook, so I knew that I wanted to go in and do that. But another thing that I did is I painted my nails earlier this week or last weekend. I'm losing track of time here. And I really liked I really like doing this. I don't know if sometimes you may notice this in my videos, but I like to do different colors on each hand. I don't know why, I just think it's fun. So I have like this really deep red on my left hand and then a really rich brown on my right hand. And I took a photo of each of my hands and then cut the hands out and then meticulously like cut around each finger so that I could use that as part of my decoration. I did something similar to this at the beginning of 2024 maybe, where I got my nails done and I was really loving them, so I took a photo of my hand and then cut out the hand and put it on the page, and I absolutely loved how it looked. I also just love hands in general. I think they're such a beautiful part of the body and they allow us to do so many things, and I really like my hands. Like I take a lot of care of them and my nails, and I like to try different fun nail polish colors. So as you can see there, I wanted to feature this like cherry cola nail that I have going on. I don't know, this is probably quite boring for some of you if you don't care about nail polish and whatnot, but it's still fun, you know, to just decorate your pages with very simple things. Like it's just my hands, but I think they add a fun touch to the spread. So once I cut them out, I added a little glue and then ended up pasting them at the bottom, like above the line that separates, you know what I mean? Those two lines at the bottom is where I put what I listened to, what I watched, and what I read. So I just decided to rest the hands on that line. But other than that, very straightforward spread. I haven't thought too much about what else decoration wise I'm gonna put on this week. I do have a couple quotes that I have written down because the people around me have just been saying some really funny things. There are certain weeks that I'm like, oh man, I don't even know what my quote of the day is gonna be, which is what I write on the top left corner of the page, like next to where it says, where it's stamped November. I write like my favorite quote of the week. But this week there's been a lot of contenders, so I'm gonna have to take some time to decide which one is gonna earn the spot. But anyway, that's what I'm tackling right now. The hands are placed, and then just the next thing is to fill in the dates. I'm not going to tackle the right hand side yet, just the little snippets on the right hand side for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And I went to grab my passport TN because when I'm doing any form of backlogging, if you will, I grab my passport TN because it has my agenda where I write a lot of, like, I can write things in bullet points just so that I don't forget what happened on those days when I go to journal about them. So here I can just look at the dates and remember, okay, right, I went to a yoga class at 5 p.m. on Monday. I saw my friend Claire on Tuesday. I also went grocery shopping on Monday. Things like that. I can just use that as a reference point, and then it helps me get my thoughts down, not only more efficiently, but more accurately, and the whole process is faster overall because I'm not sitting there trying to recall what I did. I have actual things written down that will prompt my memory. The past few weeks, I've really been into a more minimalistic spread for this journal. I think as much as I love my stickers, I think I've mentioned this in previous videos, there are moments where I just feel a bit overwhelmed by the amount of stickers that I put down, or it just takes me so long to figure out how I want to decorate the pages, and the whole process ends up taking me so long. And sometimes that's what I want. Like, I want to actively spend a lot of time at my journals, but then there are also moments where I'm like, I just want to fill in these dates because I don't want to forget what happened, and I don't have that much time to spend being very particular and perfectionist about where these stickers are going to go. So I've really been gravitating towards more simple spreads, and I think, as I mentioned before, putting my hands there really kind of frames the overall spread. It takes up a good amount of space, but it's still very minimalist. It's just my hands on the page, and then on the left hand side I'm doing pretty much no decoration, just my writing. I may add, you know what I'm about to say if you see my videos, my gold stars, which is what I use to I guess if there's a day that I want to highlight, I'll put a little gold star, and it's a visual reminder of something important or special happened on that day. But yeah, I've just been enjoying a little bit of a simpler spread, simple colors, and that's what I'm trying to stick to for this week as well. Lastly, the final thing that I wanted to tackle for this spread was on the bottom right hand side, where I keep track of what I'm listening to, what I'm reading, and what I'm watching. I wanted to just put the little templates down, and I use a Hobonichi stencil, which I keep in my passport TN, and that's what I'm grabbing right now in the video. And this week though, I've been so busy. I feel like I say this a lot in my videos, but I really have been quite busy lately. So I haven't been reading all that much. So I honestly just made the little section even smaller so that I wouldn't even have to do the book drawing, because all I would be writing is I didn't read this week. So I just skipped that all together and just left a spot for what I'm listening to and what I'm watching. And a little spoiler alert, or spoiler, would that be the word? Anyway, I'm a huge fan of Rosalia, the artist, and she is releasing an album, I think today, as I'm filming this voiceover, and I'm so excited. I pre-ordered the vinyl, and I can't wait to have a little listening party and have it be my obsession for the foreseeable future. I think she's such a visionary, and I'm so very excited to see what she has in store. If anyone listening or watching is a fan, let me know. And if you're not, maybe check her out and see if it's your cup of tea. Alas, friends, we are approaching the end of the video. I hope that this was enjoyable. I hope that you had a fun time hanging out with me throughout the week and seeing all the big and small things I try to get up to at my desk on a weekly basis. This obviously changes from week to week. Sometimes I spend more time, sometimes I spend less time, and the degree of creativeness varies immensely as well. But we welcome it all. It's all fine. It's all accepted. It's all valued. But yeah, that's it. I'm putting these bad boys away, tidying up a little bit, even though most of the times my desk is a mess. But anyway, that's it for this video. I thank you so much for being here and watching and sharing your time with me. I really, really appreciate it. And I will see you when I see you. Let's blow out the candle. Okay. Goodbye. Mwah.